Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on InRange. Today we are taking a look at Soviet sharpshooters, and we have a guest with us today, Danielle, who is, you know way more about some of this than we do, don't you?
Well, I know some of the Russian sharpshooters and some history of it, especially the female sharpshooters.
Yeah.
I think growing up and having a little girl myself, I'm looking for strong role models, and they certainly were.
There's something about a role model who, shoots 300 fascists.
That's true. Can't beat it.
So you have some background in shooting sports. We're not dragging you out here completely cold.
No. I shoot competitively just about every weekend, and I shoot national matches. I haven't been shooting all that long. I grew up in South Africa, so we've got really strict gun laws. So people always think, you must have been hunting your whole life. No, we weren't. The gun laws are strict. It's an expensive hobby. So moving to the US, when I discovered shooting, I loved it from the get-go.
Okay.
And I just couldn't get enough.
But you've done very little shooting with old stuff like this.
Yes, that I have to admit. And I think I speak for the majority of modern gun owners these days when we think that technology is better. We want everything that's new and everything that the world champion is using, and we spend hundreds of dollars thinking that it's going to make us a better shooter. Where I think if you go back and you look at the history of every rifle and you completely understand its development, that might impact it more than anything.
All right.
You're actually touching upon something I've said before in some of our other videos, which you may have heard me say or not. Shooting these types of guns is a better way to train than shooting the best possible, most accurate modern equipment. If you get good with this,
yes,
you will be better with your AR-15. It's like lifting heavier weights at the gym. So
Yeah.
there's a... Obsolete is a weird word. I don't know that I'd call anything exactly obsolete. You can still win a fight with one of these guns.
True.
But you're behind the curve. And being able to use something like this really is helpful.
So the fundamental kind of subject we wanted to start with today was the female sharpshooters that the Soviet Union employed during the Second World War. They were really a bit unusual amongst combatants in that war in employing large numbers of women in direct combat roles.
Right. They had about 2,000 female snipers.
Right.
That's only their sniper roles. Unfortunately, only about 500 of them saw the end of the war. But given the statistics of the day, that was a good number.
That's fairly typical. Yeah, and they also had, they used females in other roles, especially pilots.
Yes.
And aircraft crew in general. And then also tankers and machine gunners had significant numbers of women in their ranks.
Yes.
So, but we want to look at sharpshooters today because we have a couple of Soviet sharpshooting rifles. And we figured it'd be cool, since you don't have any significant experience with either of these guns, we figured we'd throw both of these at you and get your opinions of them.
Okay.
Our opinions, Karl and I, we've both shot these a fair amount, and our opinions are probably a little bit skewed as a result.
So this is going to be an ongoing series we're going to do with you, where we're going to bring out all sorts of our cool guns, and you're going to give a fresh pair of eyes and opinion on things that maybe Ian and I already have a bias on.
Okay.
So that's what we're looking for today.
Yeah. So the name, it's funny, I brought this up before we started filming, and it very quickly became clear that you know more about her than I do. The most probably famous Soviet sharpshooter was Ludmila Pavlichenko. She had 309 confirmed kills, and frankly, she's guaranteed to have shot a lot more Germans than that. In order to get a confirmed kill, there had to be an independent witness, and that didn't happen all the time.
Right.
Fascists, not Germans. I always got to correct you on these things. Yeah.
Well, yes, there's a song written about her, Guthrie song.
Well, she was wounded in 42 by a mortar, and they pulled her out of combat and kind of had her do the whole war hero tour the world.
Well, they wanted they wanted a second wave in the Soviet and some more defenses. So she came to the US and she toured the US with Eleanor Roosevelt, who became very fond of her because she did a lot for the female movement and empowering women. Now, the 309 fascists that she shot was in a year.
Right.
That's remarkable. 187 of them in the first 75 days. 75 days. It's almost unheard of these days.
Yeah. Well, there were a lot of fascists out there to be shot.
That's true.
Now, you gave us a cool little story about how she became or got into the sniper program.
That's true. So when they invaded the Soviet, she was at the university just outside of Kiev, and she was studying history. She was about 24 at the time. And she went down to the recruiting office and said, well, I want to enroll. And
Sign me up. I want to shoot fascists.
Right. And she had been training then as a sharpshooter and a marksman. She had certificates. But they still steered her toward nursing and a clerical job. And that just wasn't for her. Now, it's my understanding that they had tryouts at a hill that they were defending. And part of the tryouts were, well, shoot those pair of Romanians
Close.
working over there. Oh,
That is.
people would not appreciate that. Shoot the pair of Romanians over there, and she did.
That is such a stereotypical Soviet tryout, isn't
Oh
it?
gosh.
So they pretty much said, go bring me a pair of Romanian scalps.
Indeed.
Interesting. All right.
Well, the song that they wrote about her, they say, Russia's your country. Now, she was Ukrainian.
Okay.
And that's a very important distinction to make these days.
Yes, it would be.
Yeah.
No.
Fair enough.
All right. Well, this is the rifle. Now, actually, we should point out this isn't the rifle you see her with in a lot of pictures.
No, she's mostly photographed with the SVT, the 40. They didn't really use them as sniper rifles. Just their accuracy just wasn't as
Now,
good.
Karl, you've shot an SVT. You
Yeah.
have one.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, and they were intended to be the new Soviet sniper rifle, but didn't quite work out.
No, they had first of all, there was a significant wandering first shot zero, which as you can imagine is pretty important for a sniper rifle.
Yeah, you want the first shot to go where you.
And unlike where the Germans were going with this, the Soviets weren't really thinking down the lines of quote-unquote designated marksman. So they didn't really see the advantage of a only sort of accurate semi-automatic rifle. They landed up stopped milling the cuts into the receiver for the scopes and just turned it into a semi-automatic rifle.
Right.
Now that being said, they were used heavily in propaganda footage or photos.
Yes.
Because it was, top of the line, cutting edge Soviet technology.
Right.
And therefore, if you're going to pose your best female sniper with a rifle, you're going to give her the best equipment for the people to see.
Right.
And that's why you would have seen that.
Right.
Yeah. And I think some of the snipers did like SVTs, especially for closer range shooting, where the accuracy issues weren't all that important. But by far the bulk of the Soviet sharpshooting program was done with 9130 PUs.
Absolutely.
So, you want to be in the sniper program?
Yes.
We have Romanians on the hill, 100 and 200 meters away. We have this fine piece of Soviet equipment. Please load it and demonstrate your skills for us and for the motherland.
No.
Hit! Hit!
Again?
Ja! Hit!
So we ask for 2 Romanians and you give us 3. Please stand. Spasibo for your service to the motherland. On that note, let's get back to the topic. So, this was your first time shooting a rifle of this type. World War II, this is a sniper rifle, sharpshooter rifle. And you're used to 1 to 4x kind of 3-gun competition guns.
Right.
So let's compare and contrast that to this kind of drastic difference. So,
Okay.
you're normally in competition, you're what, shooting a 55 grain 223?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And you've got pretty much perfect glass. This
Right.
is a 154 grain bullet coming out of with a 3.5x on a non-adjustable PU scope. So
Right.
tell me how that worked.
So, firstly, this came in very handy. I mean, it kicks.
For the viewers, we had to talk her into wearing that.
Yes,
it
I
was
didn't
my
want to do
recommendation.
that.
When I'm out here shooting a lot of rounds, I wear it too. There's no shame. Anyways.
Yes.
Yes.
So, definitely kick. But it was just good. It was
Okay.
fun. It's solid. Certain things that I had to get used to. The scope, it's really high off the gun. So you don't have a firm cheek mount on it. You kind of have a bit of a chin well on there. So it was difficult for me at first to position the rifle where I'm used to 3-gun. It's so little recoil, so you can,
You can just drop the
Well,
toe
you
of the
just
stock
drop it.
anywhere and it
Yeah.
works.
So you don't need to worry about that as much, right?
No,
so,
you
So
don't.
we would say, I would say this is a good salient point when you're using a rifle of this type, any full-size cartridge, that your basics are more important.
Absolutely,
Okay?
absolutely.
The fundamentals, that's the word I was looking for.
The fundamentals,
If
yes.
you do not have that in your shoulder and fire it, you will pay for it.
You would be in a lot of pain.
You also won't get a hit.
You also won't get a hit.
The other thing you can't do is walk it into the target. Now, I bet you do this in 3-gun, we all do.
Yes.
Miss, hit.
Oh,
Move
yes.
on.
Oh, yes.
I got it!
I'm very fond
Right?
of iron sights myself. I
Sure.
don't. So I do that.
But that's something you have with
quite
an AR,
often.
right? You get
Right.
that miss, hit, move
Right.
on. You've got your hit.
Those rifles were designed to be shot the whole day.
So, what happens to your sight picture after you fire this first shot? When you're aiming at that target, you fire the gun,
Right.
what happens?
Oh, I couldn't see anything
Okay.
after that.
So that doesn't happen. So that first shot,
Right.
that trigger pull is paramount.
Right.
It's either hit or not hit. That's as simple as
Absolutely.
that.
I think, they were designed for that. They were designed to be first shot hits.
But it also means that the next shot, the subsequent shot, isn't a recovery from the last shot. It's a whole
Whole
new
new
shot.
shot.
right?
Absolutely.
So that's new to you. You haven't really had a lot of
no,
experience with
no,
that. Okay.
I have not.
What about the trigger?
The trigger on this one, I don't think was bad.
Mm-hmm.
It had a crisp, clean break. I've got a bolt action myself. I've got a Remington 700.
Mm-hmm.
So it was solid. Let's say that. Let's give it that. It was a good, crisp, solid break.
Okay.
But
And the bolt?
I had trouble with the bolt.
Okay.
I once broke a rock trying to open a Mosin-Nagant bolt.
And by the way, this sample is a little better than most.
Yeah.
Right. When I was running it, in dry fire, it was smooth. But once I got firing it and I wanted to run it just a little bit faster, I had a little trouble
Well, you're
with
extracting
it.
a fired cartridge,
Right.
which means that there's more tension.
Yeah.
Okay. So you had a little bit of trouble with the bolt.
I had a little bit of trouble with the bolt.
Okay. But out of 5 shots, you had 3 hits. One of them at 100 meters.
Right.
And 2 of them at 200 meters.
I would have liked to do better.
Well, that's okay. 3 out of 5. For the first time you're ever using the gun, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So, shall we
All right.
move on to the SVD?
Yeah.
All right. Let's do that.
Fine.
So it's 40 years later. You've been in the sniper program the whole time, and you don't look like you've aged a day. Have a lot of Romanians under your belt.
Yes.
All right. Well, we have problems in Afghanistan now. Ready for some more?
Sand.
Sand, dirt. Yeah.
I
Long range as well. So what we have here is an Svd Dragunov. Technically, it's an NDM-86 with a Chinese copy. This one is in 308, but it is identical in function and ballistics with 147 grain bullet as a standard 54R Dragunov. Nothing different whatsoever. I have a Romanian Tip 2 LPS scope on it. The only reason I have that on there is because the original Dragunov PSO1 scope is kind of valuable. I don't want to damage it. This is functionally identical as well. 4X scope, SVD reticle, same thing. So we're going to put Danielle through the paces with this gun in semi-automatic, and you're going to tell us what your impressions are compared to what you're used to, which is the 9130 sniper.
Okay.
All right? Let's move on.
Yeah, we'll see if the Russians made any practical improvements.
Oh, I would add to that. Actually, I think that they would. Right. So the reason this gun exists, for your education in this program, is that at the end of the Great Patriotic War,
Right.
we learned that the fascists had something called a G43, which they used in a designated marksman role.
Right.
They had snipers too, but we found that the accurate withering fire from a G43 at 200-300 meters was painful.
Right.
So we went ahead and developed our own version of that concept, and that's what this rifle is today.
Oh, exciting. Let's do this.
All right. All right. So the Americans have been funding this thing, the Mujahideen.
Oh.
Anyways, there's one of them at 100 meters and another one at 200 meters, much like what you did for us with the Romanians. We've got the pride of the motherland here in SVD. Can you show us what you can do?
I've got this.
He's getting pretty confident now.
I've had 20 years experience.
Hit! Hit!
Just right.
Hit! All right. So, I'll say this. The Mujahideen are a little smaller than the Romanians you were dealing with.
I scared them.
However, you did hit them multiple times. But what I noticed is that your ability to have recovery shots was much better.
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. I could have follow-up shots, and quite effectively with the scope, call my hit. You know, as soon as I broke the shot, I knew that I wasn't on target.
So there's an important element to that, right? So
Right.
we talked about that with the 9130. When you fire the shot, your entire sight picture is disrupted.
It's gone.
It's gone.
Yes,
Every shot is now a brand new shot. You have to build up everything.
absolutely.
With this one being, first of all, we noticed you don't have the leather pad on anymore.
It wasn't all that necessary.
Okay, so for the semi-automatic gas-operated gun, the recoil is not so bad?
Yes,
All right.
yes, no, it's not.
So on that note, you had the ability to now follow up with secondary recovery shots.
Yes.
And you didn't lose your sight picture in the process.
No, and I wasn't flinching to pull that trigger again.
So in that regard, in a combat zone where people are moving and probably not just standing there for you to shoot at them,
Right.
this is a big difference.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Talk about your impressions of the gun in general.
Okay. So I liked the recoil just a little bit better. It was a little bit softer. The trigger on it, shorter reset. It was just a better trigger.
Sure.
Yes, I did like the fact, and I obviously needed to take those follow-up shots. So I like the fact that I could do that quickly, and that it wasn't a completely new shot straight out of the bat.
What about the cheek weld, chin weld with the pad there?
That's obviously more what I'm used to with shooting modern day AR-15s and 308s. That's more what I'm used to, and so I could handle the recoil of it just a whole lot more effectively.
So what I would say about this is a little bit of a modernized SVD in that the original one had a wood stock and a wood
Yes.
pad, which got you that proper rest cheek weld for your sights, your optic. And this one has a little pad that rotates in and out, but it's the same function. So on that gun, if you needed to get to your irons, you can just rotate that out of the
Right.
way. In the original gun, you just pop it off.
Right.
But in terms of getting a solid chin weld or cheek weld, you were having a better time with it.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yes.
Yep. And the recoil, you said, is already more minimal.
Yes.
Well, I don't know what else to say. A big improvement over 20 years?
For 20 years, that's a huge improvement.
What would you think of this gun in a modern application? Let's say you took that to a 3-gun match. Now I realize your capacity diminished with 10 rounds, and you got more
Right.
recoil with 308. But compared to what you're used to with your AR, how close is that, or how far is that from, say,
I would say that's pretty close to what I would, if I shot a 308 and say heavy metal division, that's probably very close to what I have now. My scope is perhaps a little bit better now. My trigger is perhaps a little bit better, but very similar, very similar.
Yeah, those are my impressions as well. Well,
Yes.
thank you for your service to the motherland once again.
My favorite.
All right, so your service to the Soviet sniper program is commendable today. On that note, so what do you think?
If I had to pick one,
No, just what do you think in general? What was your general feeling about the day?
I am sad that I haven't shot these guns earlier, that I haven't tried them out before. As I said, just being new to shooting, you're always looking for the best, newest technology. And of course I'm interested in the historical value of the guns, but putting that aside, why haven't I just gone out and tried them? They're amazing.
These are all stepping.
Corrupted by
by 3-gun.
These are all stepping stones to where we are today.
Yes.
Okay, so
I'll get
there's
there.
something to be learned from all phases of that,
Absolutely.
frankly. And we talked about how it can make you a better shooter.
Yes.
So, if you were to pick one of these guns just to have fun and relax and have a good time shooting, which one would you pick?
I would go with the Mosin-Nagant.
I think
Mosin-Nagant.
she already did pick
I
that.
would. Not as effective as the Dragunov.
Mhm.
Obviously, if I were going into a combat situation, I would much rather have that. But just to own, just to shoot for fun, I'm going to go with this.
I get it.
It looks like you may have trouble getting that back.
Nah, I'll get it back. There's a
You
lot
know,
of those.
the Dragunov really is approaching on that territory of it's so much of a simple point and click and it gets the job done that it almost takes some of the fun out of it.
Well, yeah,
yeah.
I mean, but that's what you want in a combat rifle.
Oh, absolutely.
You want to
Yeah.
go
Yes.
prone, get a bipod deployed, see the enemy, pull the trigger, and watch it fall.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
You're not doing that with a Nagant.
No,
not,
you're
well,
not.
not as much unless you're very highly skilled, right? So this gun
Yes,
brings that
Ludmilla.
to the field. However, for just having a good time shooting,
Yeah,
that only goes so far.
yes. That is true.
Yeah.
All right.
So we'll be seeing more of you with some more historic guns to get the similar kind of impressions.
I
Right.
am looking forward
What
to
else
it.
we got on the
We
Warped
didn't
Tour?
scare you off?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I have had my phone on standby and I'm looking up rifles as we speak.
So we'll see some G43s in the future,
Yeah.
some
You may also
Kar98s.
see my car being impounded because I haven't made the payment. But
Okay, fair enough.
Well, thank you for joining us today, and I hope everyone enjoyed watching this and this kind of a different take on an in-range video. Tell your friends and subscribe.